Inflation, your savings' biggest enemy, and here's how to beat it. Meet Sharma ji. He loves his morning walks and never forgets to drink his favorite masala chai at the street corner. He's been drinking chai at the same chaiwala since 1980. No wonder he proudly regales stories of how the tea was sold at just ₹2 when he first started drinking tea at the shop. Of course, how over the years the price of chai has risen and the cup has shrunk, thanks to inflation. So, what is inflation? Inflation, in simple words, refers to the rise in the price of product and services over time. It affects every aspect of life: food, clothing, education, homes, travel, healthcare, gadgets, etc. For instance, if your monthly expense for groceries, maintenance bills and leisure is about ₹30,000 in 2020, it won't be enough to meet the expenses 5 years from now. So, if we assume a 7% rate of inflation, you will need about ₹42,000 in 2025, ₹59,000 in 2030 and ₹1,16,000 in 2040. But before you brush this aside with the simple logic that prices tend to rise over time, consider this. Is your income increasing at the same rate, if not faster? Yes? No? Sometimes? If your answer is a no or sometimes, then unlike Sharma ji, you won't be able to indulge in your favorites the same way. You will soon be faced with serious questions. What will I have to give up to prevent going into debt? How will rising costs change my lifestyle? And if these issues occur while you still have a job, can you even imagine the struggle after you retire, especially if you rely solely on what you save? Inflation can be your savings' biggest enemy, but it doesn't need to. Be like Sharma ji, who managed inflation by choosing investment solutions that potentially offered higher returns. He wasn't a financial wizard. He didn't do any investment mumbo-jumbo. All it took was a little planning and some discipline. He invested a small amount every month throughout his career in investment options that returned more than the rate of inflation. Some SIPs in mutual fund schemes, asset allocation moves, and voila! You, like Sharma ji, can enjoy your chai throughout your life. You may consult your investment advisor to make sure your investments grow faster than the rate of inflation. An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Hello and welcome to the Kochi semi-final of Businessline Boardroom Challenge 2023. I am Srimati Sridharan. Businessline Boardroom Challenge, a unique competition for B-Schoolers, has 3 levels: a preliminary round, a semi-final across 8 cities and a grand finale. The online tests in the prelims tested students' decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. In the semi-finals, the students got the chance to meet and compete with the best minds from top B schools across the country and present their strategies. And in finals, students will showcase their skills by solving a live corporate case. Now without further ado, let's jump right into it. I now request Mr. Vinay Kamath from Businessline to take over.
Welcome all to the BL Boardroom Challenge 2023. I am Vinay Kamath of Businessline. This unique case challenge for B-Schoolers is in its 7th year. In the first year of the challenge, in 2017, Liba Chennai was the winner, followed by ISB Hyderabad in 2018 and IIM Ranchi in 2019. SIBM Pune won the contest in 2020, while IIM Shillong won in 2021 and SPJMR in 2022. Till the 2019 edition, the semi-final rounds of the contest were held across 8 cities at B schools which hosted the event. The preliminary round has always been online, where students are administered a psychometric test to assess their decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. The grand finale, where B schools which won city-specific semi-finals competed for the grand prize, had in earlier years been held in Chennai. From the year 2020, keeping in mind the safety of the students and others involved in this contest during the pandemic, it has been conducted entirely online, including the semi-final rounds and the finals as well. This year too, we are conducting the event online, given its efficacy as a convenient medium where students don't need to spend time traveling to various destinations. The semi-finals case will test the participating teams on the knowledge of finance, marketing and strategy and decision-making skills and ability to work in teams. The BL Boardroom Challenge is a unique event which has become part of the calendar of contests for B schools. May the best team win the 2023 BL Boardroom Challenge. All the best.
To outline the case for the semi-finals, each of the teams had to take on a role of a consulting company that has a huge knowledge in the EV area. The task for the planning team is to make a 5-year business plan for a newly established company. This company, named Green Mobility India, is a subsidiary of a renewable energy giant. The participant have to facilitate its entry into the electronic vehicles market. They would need to present the dynamics and therefore qualitative and quantitative inputs if green energy can proceed in the EV space or not. The business plan if it feels the company should enter the field. Real impact of the EVs on the environment considering cradle to grave impact compared to ICE and hybrid. Understanding consumer preferences and secondary sources and projecting the market scenario for 5 years. Projected progress of charging infrastructure and its impact on penetration of EVs. Each team will get 15 minutes to present their case and will be followed by 5 minutes of questions and answers. The team will be marked for 50 points by each jury member. The team with the highest total wins. Here is the breakup. Understanding of case points 10. Case analysis 15. Solution 10. Presentation 10. Teamwork 5. Now it's over to the teams presenting today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, esteemed board members. We, Eco Consulting Group, are extremely grateful for this opportunity to present our solution on this case study. So, without wasting much time, let's delve into the market scenario of the EV industry. Next slide. So, the market overview of EV industry is such that we'll be talking about the key growth factors and the challenges that are seen in the market overview. So charging infrastructure is one of the growth factors. So presently India has 9,000 public charging stations, and the challenge that India is facing is space constraints, mainly due to advancements in charging speeds and higher charging power stations. We need more space to build these charging stations. So that's the challenge that we are facing. And the second growth factor is the cost. So EVs are very much costlier than hybrid electric vehicles and the traditional IC engine vehicles. So for a market like India, where people are very cost conscious, we'll have to find a way by which we can adopt this vehicle to the mass adoption technique. And coming to the subsidies, the government of India is actually promoting EVs through many subsidies and policies like the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan and the FAME schemes by the Indian government, and also various state policies are there by Maharashtra government, Tamil Nadu government, and thereby we are having a lot of subsidies and help from the government side. But we have also seen another factor, like lately the FAME Phase 2 scheme had a for the EV two-wheelers, there was a reduction, and we saw how that affected the two-wheelers sales. So the subsidies from the government has to be on a consistent way so that people are more prone to achieve the EV sales in the future also. And coming to the consumer choice, we'll be dealing that in the further slides. But we have seen that consumer preference over the years are changing, and they are preferring more and more electric vehicle due to the sustainability factor and the climate change issues that's going on in and around the world. And coming to the global trends, Western markets definitely have, we are seeing an EV boom in the Western markets, but how much that will affect the Indian market is a question. Because Western markets, we can have very good public charging infrastructure, and also the road development in Western countries are very much different from Indian market. So how much that's going to affect the Indian consumers is a question. So that's all about the growth factors. And the challenges are something we'll be dealing, like space constraints, higher EV costs, and also subsidy changes, just like I mentioned in the FAME scheme, and consumer shift. So what we can expect in the future, it will be dealt later. And now we'll have an executive summary, which will be dealt by Abhirami.
Okay, thank you, Induji. We propose a strategic focus on hybrid EVs. Like specifically, we prioritize on parallel hybrids for the affordability and the plug-in hybrids for the longer electric range. When we talk about the market landscape, we can see that Tata Motors dominates the market with 72% market share, followed by MG at 10%. The government support through FAME second budget with 10,000 crore will accelerate the EV adoption as well as the HEVs. And when we talk about the cost dynamics, we can see that the current EV costs are much higher, which limits its mass adoption. Further, the HEVs offer a lower entry point for the consumers compared to the pure EVs, making it more appealing and economically viable. Further, it allows a faster market penetration. They have a much more they already have a broader consumer acceptance and infrastructure capability. The HEVs offer a significant emission reduction compared to the conventional vehicles. So we also suggest to invest in software expertise, that is to develop innovative features and functionalities to increase HEV appeal and to stand out in terms of competition. Also to focus more on data analytics so that we can track and analyze the consumer data to continuously improve the HEV performance and the user experience. Further, the projection of 0.6 market share within a 5-year demonstrates a calculated and achievable entry point. Can we move to the next slide, please? So for the current projections, we can see that for 2022-23, the total EV sold is approximately 10 lakh units. And the distribution is as follows. That is, the major dominant sector is two-wheelers with 57%, followed by three-wheelers for 37%, and a mere 6% for the passenger cars. Again, we can see that the passenger vehicle EV percentage is only 4% of the total passenger vehicles that was sold were electric. It shows that there is substantial room for improvement in its growth and market penetration. And when we look at the current year expectations, like in the fiscal year, we can see that nearly 40% showcasing a promising growth, while the estimated EV sales is around 1.4 million units. Like, it reflects a significant scale up. Then again, in passenger vehicle EV percentage projected to remain at 4%, it highlights that there's a need for we need to focus more on such areas to boost its adoption. And in the future projections, we can see that it is expected to sell 20 million EVs across all categories by 2030, and also to aim at 22% of all passenger vehicles to be EVs to achieve this ambitious goal. Again, the expected passenger vehicle market is projected to be approximately 6.5 million passenger vehicles by 2030. It signifies the growth and expansion. Like, there's so much opportunities for the EV players in such areas. The next slide. Okay, thank you. Here we can see that from the moment they are born to the point they return to the earth, the EV vehicles and ICs, the internal combustion engine vehicles, leave their mark on the environment. Like, let's look into the cradle to grave journey, comparing their impact across various stages. So the first one is the environmental footprints that we'll be looking at, the emissions during the operations. That is, for EVs, they manifest as zero tailpipe emission. They operate silently without with regenerative braking and further minimizing the environmental impact. While for ICs, on the contrary, they emit a wide range of pollutants like carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, contributing to atmospheric pollution and adversely affecting the air quality in urban environment. And when you talk about the manufacturing process, EVs, while energy-intensive manufacturing processes are characterized EV production, there are ongoing efforts dedicated to enhance eco-friendliness of the factories. There are challenges associated with the battery productions, which uses lithium and other chemicals. In terms of ICs, the production involves smoke emitting factories that release significant amount of CO2, which is also an environmental burden. When we talk about material sourcing, again, EVs are responsible for responsible metal sourcing coupled with recycling initiatives mitigating the downsides associated with material acquisition. Again, I see similar to EVs, traditional mining practices contribute to environmental impact, a bit with differential elemental considerations. With regards to fuel and charging, EVs often rely on mixed energy grid. That is, they show promise as a renewable energy source to gain prominence, while ICEs fueled by non-renewable energy, and they contribute to environmental degradation from extraction and combustion. And when we talk about the life cycle consideration, in both the cases, they have responsible disposal, like they can be recycled, like certain parts can be recycled, while the EV batteries demand specialized care and research for recycling. Initiatives are being undertaken for such recycling. In case of ICs, the component find secondary uses, and they still possess challenges in recycling process. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay. So over a third of the Indian consumers are now interested in electrified hybrid vehicles, indicating a significant shift towards sustainable transport options. So this is mainly because of two factors, that is environmental consciousness and cost and maintenance. When we talk about the environmental consciousness, so there is a rising awareness of climate change and air pollution that is pushing customers towards eco-friendliness and transportation choices. And EVs and hybrids offer a zero tailpipe emission, contributing to a cleaner air and healthier planet. And when we talk about the cost and maintenance, while the initial purchase cost of EV is still high, there are government incentives, and another issue is that in terms of its battery, that is the cost of replacing a battery is almost around 25 to 30% of the cost of the car itself. We can see that the 58% is from the hybrid vehicles itself here from the graph. So based on the data source from the Hindu Businessline, the Deloitte Global Automotive Consumer Study 2022, the Automotive Ecosystem Mission Study by Zebra Technology Corporation, we can see that the environmental concerns, the government support, and domestic manufacturing are driving this shift. Further, the research predicts that hybrid will be of the customer choice due to its affordability, fuel efficiency, and environmental benefits. Further, they increasingly prioritize on reducing pollution, and that's what makes the EVs and hybrids more attractive to them. Then the government provides
10 minutes over.
incentives and subsidies and sustainable initiatives. They also make EVs more accessible and desirable, and that's it. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, the next portion will be taken by Indu.
Okay, thank you, Abrami. So I'll be moving too quick. So let's discuss about the charging infrastructure. So here we'll be talking about the projected progress of charging infrastructure and its impact on EV penetration in India. So we have already discussed about the current scenario where we have limited stations and the policy initiatives such as FAME by the national government and other state initiatives. So, and also the private players like Adani Power, Tata Power, and Reliance are investing heavily in the charging infrastructure. That's the current scenario. The projected progress is such that there's an expected of 1 lakh charging stations by 2027. That's a rapid expansion that's expected in the charging infrastructure, and also geographic diversification. Right now, we have charging infrastructure, the charging stations in metropolitan cities. So we are expecting that to reach the tier 2 and tier 3 cities soon. And also technology advancements like faster charger will be up in the scheme and state level initiatives. So how this is going to affect the EV penetration is such that there will be reduced range anxiety among the customers, and also lower running costs and improved air quality and energy security. So we know the customers are very much worried about when they travel from one city to another city because of the limited range anxiety. And that will be covered if we have charging infrastructure which is expanded over tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 cities. And the future of charging infrastructure is such that we'll have a clean and green future where we'll be using renewable energy resources instead of coal, green alternatives such as solar power, wind power, and also biomass. There is a biomass enabled EV charging station in Mumbai, in Maharashtra right now. It's one, but it's just one as of now, but they're trying out that alternative also. Also, the smart EV charging, wherein we can implement data analytics and also. Now let's move to the next slide, Midina. So the government policies, I'll not be discussing much about this because of the crunch of time. The FAME India scheme is such that it's a part of the National Electric Mobility Scheme where they're encouraging the EVs by providing subsidies. And the PLI schemes, both automotive sector and the advanced chemistry cell, is to boost the domestic manufacturing. And GST reduction is such that GST on EV vehicles is 5% as of now, and government is promoting that. And the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has initiatives to where they allow green license plates and they are exempted from permit requirements. Now handing over to Vidina.
As a client for green mobility, we are making a Potter's five force model, and we can see that the bargaining power of suppliers, they have the batteries, they have a constraint hold over the supply of battery, and they hold the bargaining power over us. And for bargaining power of buyers, we have buyer preferences. As we see, they have economic, environmental sustainability and cost efficiency problems as well. In competitive rivalry, we already saw from the case that Tata, Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai already has a competitive rivalry over us. But we are assuming that since we are a subsidiary of the renewable source energy giant, we will have a edge over them. And in case of the threat of the substitutes, we actually have the ICEs and EVs as a threat of substitute. And for the middle class income of the in class of the India has a very competition interest over public transport as well. In case of new entrants, there is high entry barriers. It's a kind of saturated market, but at the same time it already has established competition. But we are focusing FAME 3 to be very hopeful for us, for our company Green Mobility. And the a 5-year business plan of green mobility is as follows. So we would suggest for green mobility is that they have to launch the first two hybrid cars, that's parallel hybrid and plug-in hybrid. And there will be increased promotions for the company, the brand, and planned investment in 2025, because they will be going for a more phased production say that. And in 26 there will be a increasing market share promotions in their side, and revenue from charging facilities as well. So for in revenue, we don't just have revenue from vehicles, but we also have from tech annexures. We can see that we have revenue from charging facilities as well. And in increased production capacity is what we are looking for the next term, and EV chargers will be more produced, and expected market share is something that we already discussed in executive summary, that we are focusing for the 0.6% expected market share. So in projected revenue for the green mobility, as you can see, the total revenue is from the vehicle sale and from the revenue from charging facilities. And the total, the price of these two products were given as 19 lakh 30,500, and we are assuming for the plug-in hybrids also around 20 lakhs. So this is the total revenue we projected. And as you can see, the payback period is looking very hopeful, because from the calculations of yearly margins and total initial investment, we projected this number, and it's looking already promising if we go in a realistic manner. And the expected market share, as we can see already, from the secondary data, the players in passenger vehicles only have 0.22% from this efforts. So we are expecting to gain a significant amount of the market share.
15 minutes over.
This is the projected investment. Thank you, sir. So we were planning to use 3 chargers that was given in the annexures, and the CCS 60 kilowatt would be the most expensive one. That would be very much lesser in the country, since we don't have high income population to the majority, but we are still not considering them. And we assumed a production of 500 initial selling units for the company, and the investment on plan, the total capital, and expected promotion were all calculated from this. And the expected promotion also, we were given in the case study that SOV, that is share of voice, is for a new company, it's 3 times that is of the existing market. So we projected 18 crore promotion for the company as well, since we are focusing for 0.6% of the market share.
Thank you, sir.
See, the presentation was quite neat, okay? The way it is presented was quite neat. But at the end of the day, the numbers which I wanted to see was not there. In the sense, there is a mismatch in your number, which I'll get back to you later. A proper P&L statement, which tells me of investments in every aspects of your business and converting it into your final, and the market share. If you have really gone through the case study, you are very clear in the case study. It's very clearly indicates somewhere that unless you cover 20% of the market share, you're not going to be profitable, irrespective of whether you're going to be in the hybrid or the EV market, right? But when you're talking about 0.6 after 5 years, why would, as a company, want to invest so much now? You understand where I'm coming from. So I would want you to just relook at the numbers which you are working on. That's number one. Number two is that you are talking about hybrid model. You started off by saying that you would prefer to get into parallel and plug-in hybrid, right? After which suddenly somewhere you started deviating to EV and you started comparing EV and ICE. Hybrid never came into the picture. You never even wanted to justify why you are bringing in hybrid, except for one, again, a last slide which says this is what the market demands. But there is no comparison between the EV, hybrid, and ICE, because ICE, everybody knows what it is. They really don't require to have a comparison. But we made a very good comparison of EV and ICE when you are actually recommending hybrid to start with. So the conviction from your end is not so high for me to get convinced as a business owner to say, okay, I'll invest. Right? So, okay, fine. If the conviction is not there, then at least I should see an Excel sheet, which is much more elaborate, much more comprehensive, which gives me a confidence level to say that, okay, hey, this is the number, and I can question on that and then find out whether it's worth investing or not investing. Anyway, have you worked out an Excel sheet, or you have just generally on a white sheet of paper, you just worked out something and then put it on a plugged in like that?
No, so we actually worked on an Excel sheet, and it's not very comprehensive because we assumed a lot of numbers from the realistic secondary data and all. So we just from the first slide, we assumed a CAGR of 10% is there. So we worked on from that, like a rate of 10 CAGR of 10% is something that we focus. So
Okay.
it was a lot of attentions and not a lot of comprehension.
One good thing is that you spoke about green mobility's renewable energy being utilized for your own benefit. But how? That was not there. Right? Sorry, go on.
So that is basically in the future, we can use the renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power for the charging stations.
Fair enough. You have mentioned that after about third year, if I'm not mistaken, you are wanting to introduce charging stations, correct?
Yes.
Which means by the time you are going to use it. So how you are going to use it? What is the value you are going to adopt for that? Because today the charging, are you aware of the installation of a charging station cost today?
Yes, sir. It's mentioned in the investment.
Okay, generally in the market. Okay, what is the number?
So for chargers, we are focusing the simple ones have 1,25,000 per charger, the 2 AC ones, and the rest of the two has 9 lakhs and 18 lakhs as their prices. So we are also assuming a revenue from the charging facility as well. So we are hoping that it would hit a break.
Once you have a renewable energy, that's where I'm coming from. Once you have a renewable energy coming in play. Let us presume you're installing a solar panel. This thing, it's okay, windmill or solar, whatever you want to take into account. There's a cost involved in that. That
Yes.
cost has to also be percolated down. So your charging station cost also goes up accordingly.
Yes, but we are assuming we are backed by a very high renewable source
Right, but
giant in that
even
case.
assuming that I'm a subsidiary of a giant renewable thing, but that giant is not going to give me free of cost, right?
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
you would give it to me at a discounted value, not at free of cost.
So the payback period of the revenue that is getting from the investments initially are looking very good. If you are going for a 0.6%, that is a very realistic number actually we looked at. Because
Okay.
in the first 5 years, we can't actually go for a 20% of market share, which is already dominated by the giant players like Hyundai, Honda, etc. And Tata, to be honest, is the biggest market there, and it is not a very realistic number to say. So
If it is
the
not a
payback
realistic
looks
number, if it
promising, and
is,
we are hoping we can.
Abhirami, Mithuna, if it is
Yes,
not
sir.
a realistic number, the case study also gives you a question there by saying, in case you feel realistically you will not be able to achieve, you can always say, let's not go in for this. Let's not waste our
Yes,
money
sir.
going in for that. And at the
Yes, sir.
moment you are suggesting, let's go in for this, then you will have to aim for what could be the realistic number where my returns are going to be much, much better.
Yeah.
Correct?
Like as we say about a business, it might be a very small. I mean, if we go in a sustainable way, we were hoping that in the long term it can have a very good share, but not just in the 5 years,
Okay.
initial 5 years, because this is a new.
No problem. I'm Sunil Ratna.
Is it?
I'm Neil Ratna. Any questions,
Yeah,
please?
yeah. I think, SKG, since he has, written the case, I think that I could see that passion, in him to ensure that you all have understood the case and, that.
I've not written the case. This thing was only the initial preliminary test for them, which I
Yeah.
perceived as too easy. So,
Okay. But I think team, nice joint effort. I think that was very nice. And I was also looking at your perspective on the charging infrastructure, because one thing that you should also keep in mind is that the charging infrastructure would evolve, and as it evolves, it might, whatever you have incurred cost might become obsolete. So you need to keep your thumb on that. But apart from, I think the numbers which I think SKG so nicely took you all through, I have one question, or rather, I want to understand your perspective. There was one slide I just noted that you all were mentioning about the uh, the Indian electric vehicle market growing, from 2022 to 2028, with a 29.63% growth in passenger vehicles. And also, of course, commercial vehicles also we can take. Considering a changing pattern, you showed about the five forces that would work. But I want to understand your perspective in terms of a changing trend in the younger population, where people don't want to own vehicles, people don't want to own assets. And you are in the business where you want them to purchase, electric vehicles, hybrid models, or, depending on what your company would go ahead with, you suggested hybrids and, other things. So how do you see this changing landscape as a threat versus y'all wanting to sell more of this product?
Sir, actually, in the younger population of today, as you said, are more not into buying more assets and is into renting and leasing kind of. But what we'd like to say is they are also younger population is very much enthusiastic about the climate change and sustainability. So this hybrid electric vehicle is one thing which is between the IC engine and the electric vehicle. The electric vehicle will be very much costly for a younger adult, but it will not be something which a person can afford. So hybrid electric is something which they can afford, and also it gives them that satisfaction that they're contributing to the bigger green alternative. So something for their for the society, and something I think they'll definitely move into a hybrid electric first, and then only eventually they'll move into an electric vehicle because of the initial cost.
Okay. Thanks, Indu. What about Midhuna and Abhirami? What's your perspective on that?
Same, sir. Like in case of hybrid, you get the best of both worlds, like ICs and the electronic EVs. So EVs are like very much costlier for a place like India, and in case of ICs, there's so much pollution happening, and it's available everywhere. Like there's pollution also comes with it. So I think hybrid will be a better option when we talk about it, and eventually there will be a reluctance to change from hybrids to EVs, but over the period of time, they will be more willing to move for EVs.
Okay. So environment and cost would be the two indicators.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Over to you, SKG.
It's okay. Thank you very much. Your thought process is good. Yes, going to hybrid and going to EV later on is good. But the only thing is the numbers and other things speak differently, right? So maybe you can always go back to the drawing table and work on that once again and see how best you can work on that, right?
Yeah.
See, for getting about 1.25 lakh units, you will have to invest about 12,000 crores in your plant. And just for information, see, none of the automobile segments in the big players, they don't manufacture the cars thing. Everything is assembled, right?
Yes,
so when you are looking at
That's
all
the way
that,
we assumed as well.
Sorry.
That is the exact way we assumed as well. Like the plant investment, it's just the warehousing expenses.
Correct. But then again, when you're talking about 6 crores or 7 crores, and why do you require 6 crores? What perception you required? These are all the explanations that might require at some point of time. That could have been much clearer in a better perspective, right? The whatever 12,000 crores which I'm talking about, or 1.5 lakh unit of cars which I'm talking about is assembling only. I'm not talking about manufacturing. Okay, so that's the reason I said if you go back to the drawing board, maybe you'll be able to. And it almost gave a hint to you in your case study on that perspective. So maybe you could have done that. Like you have taken a lot of inputs from the case study. Similarly, this also, if you had taken, maybe somewhere you could have worked on. Not necessarily the first year you will get 20%, but of course, 3 to 4 years time, you should be able to. That's where you hit the market. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank
All
you,
the
sir.
best.
Thank you.
We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Life is like cricket. When you get thrown a googly, how you bat is the difference between hitting a 6 and getting out. A simple example of a googly in life is your laptop crashing while you're working on an important business presentation. If you're smart and prepared, you should have your files backed up on the cloud and should recover from this loss quickly. If you are not prepared, you will have lost years of work. A complicated googly is the 2020 pandemic that shut the world down and disrupted businesses and economies globally. If you already had an online business module or quickly added one, you continued to work like normal. If you didn't, you probably struggled. As organizations, as employees, we try to plan for unexpected situations that could disrupt work. But as an individual, are you prepared to handle googlies like a medical emergency, a natural disaster, a recession, or another pandemic without draining your savings and generating a mountain of debt? If your answer is no, then it is time to set up a contingency fund that can handle life's googlies. What is a contingency fund? Like the name suggests, it is a fund that may help you survive in an emergency. A contingency fund may give you breathing room if your salary isn't paid or if you lose your job. You may not be stumped on how to pay your child's school fees, utility bill, and EMI, or worse, if you can put food on the table. How does a contingency fund help in these situations? Well, a good contingency fund is seeded with 6 to 9 months' salary. Do not panic. Yes, that's a lot of money. But you don't need to have it today. You will accumulate it slowly over time. All you have to do is stay committed and only use the fund for true emergencies. This means no spending it to upgrade your phone when it still works or using it to fund that spontaneous friend's trip. How to create a contingency fund. Think of a contingency fund as a systematic investment for unexpected situations. Step 1. Set up a contingency fund account. It can be a savings account, a liquid fund account, or any other type. Just make sure it is relatively safe, easy to access, and separate from your regular savings account. After all, you don't want to spend it accidentally. Step 2. Set achievable targets. When you are playing a match, you don't reach 400 runs on the first ball or even the first over. You keep your team motivated by setting smaller targets that will help you achieve the desired outcome. Similarly, set yourself smaller targets. Once you reach it, raise the bar higher until you have collected at least 6 months' salary. Step 3. Make your contingency fund a part of your financial plan. Analyze your existing income and expenses and find areas which can be tightened to give you a winning outcome. This should ensure you aren't struggling or forgetting to meet your targets every month. Step 4. Set up an automatic systematic contingency fund process. Start an auto debit to transfer your budgeted amount into your contingency fund account. Remember to increase the amount as your salary and expenses grow. Step 5. Replenish your systematic contingency fund. Every time you dip into your contingency fund, make sure you replenish it. This will ensure you are financially prepared to take on the next emergency, if any. Follow these steps with an aim to build a fund that could sustain your quality of life during an emergency. Start today and aim to be prepared to manage any googly that life may bring. An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
So, a very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ankit along with Jaideep in Path, and we'll be presenting a solution for the case, Can Green Mobility India enter the electric vehicle segment?
So in the first slide, we'll talk about the summary of our analysis and the research that we have done, and the factors influencing the decision to enter or avoid entering the EV segment. So the first and foremost factor that we thought of was of the key importance was the current competition in this market. So this market is in nascent stage and a high level of growth is expected. However, there is intense competition in the market. And other established auto manufacturers like Renault have already announced their plans to enter into this market. So the competition is further going to intensify in the market. So a new entrant which do not have any background in auto manufacturing can incur a high upfront cost and significant promotional expenses to gain the same market share as the incumbents. And moreover, we found out that the current market players, the existing players, are operating on a very thin net margin and a very low return on capital employed. So we actually tried to, run a model as to what could be our payback period if we have to enter into the EV segment. And what we found out was that if we do not have a significant market share, the payback period could well be more than 7 to 8 years. And we again will be operating with a very thin margin. The next key considerations were the customer preference outside of tier 1 cities remains to be seen. While the market is projected to have a significant growth, it is still very much important to see how is the EV adoption in the outside of tier 1 cities, as the cost of EVs is still a big concern and the customer spending power outside these cities is low. And the last point is the infrastructure. Although the charging infrastructure is also expected to grow at around 52% of CAGR in the upcoming 4 to 5 years, still a large shortfall in the charging stations is expected. So considering above factors, which we'll delve deeper into the next slides, what we recommend is, instead of proceeding with the EV project, a more lucrative opportunity lies for the company in the EV charging infrastructure segment. And just moving on to the table on the right side of the screen. So the factors that we have considered in this analysis is the charging infrastructure scenario in India, the cost of EVs, government policies, consumer preference, and the competition. So I'll just provide a brief about each of the factor. The charging infrastructure. Currently, government is pushing to create a vast network of charging infrastructure across India. However, even after such a peak growth, a shortfall is expected. In terms of cost of EVs, right now the cost of upfront cost is more. However, the total cost of ownership is low as compared to ICs. But that upfront cost is a deterrent for consumers outside, especially outside tier one cities, to invest in EVs right now. Speaking about government policies, there are a lot of government policies at the central as well as state government level providing incentives to the consumers as well as to the manufacturers. But the key challenge there is that the complexity to get the manufacturer registered under those policies and the lack of clarity as to how much time period uh, for which these incentives would be provided. Speaking about consumer preference, so the rising fuel costs and consumers being aware of the environmental impact of ICs has pushed them towards EVs. But still, as of now, the customers are hesitant, especially due to two factors. First one is the range of EVs, and the second one is the charging infrastructure. And the competition, I've already spoken about a competition in the first part of the slide. However, just to reiterate, the competition is intense and new established auto manufacturers are entering into this segment with their new product offerings, and it is further going to intensify.
Now coming towards the cradle to grave impact, uh, it is a comparative analysis between EVs, IC, and hybrids. So we can divide cradle to grave impact into three main stages. First is resource extraction and manufacturing. That includes mining of different components for the manufacturing process as well as refining and extraction of crude oil. Next up is vehicle use and emission. In this, we can consider the electricity that we generate for our EVs as well as the tailpipe emissions due to ICs. And final one is the end of life disposal. So for EVs, battery disposal is a major concern. While for ICs, different fluids present in the engine and different other components of a vehicle generates a problem. So, giving you a brief overview about the EVs, IC, and hybrids. ICs are the most polluting vehicles with highest tailpipe or vehicle in use emissions, while EVs, though it generates significantly lesser emissions, but it is dependent on major three factors like battery production as well as from where we are sourcing our electricity, and the third one is how are we disposing our batteries. While for hybrid it is a mix of both, so the emissions that it has, it is somewhere in between IC and EVs. So we can consider it a transitional step, but there are some different like patterns, like how does a driver operate their vehicle, which also decides how much emissions a hybrid vehicle generates. Next up is the quantitative analysis for the emissions that we have compared our gasoline car with a fully battery electric vehicle. So according to US EPA, the entire life cycle GHG emissions for an electrical vehicle is almost 57% less than is what of it is for a gasoline car. And there are other two major scenarios. First is the stated policies of different states, and the second one is announced pledges for 2030. So comparing these, if states follow these, it will result in 700 million ton of reduction in GHG emissions, as well as for APS it will result in 770 million ton of reduction in GHG emissions. While we have also used this e-Amrit portal by Niti Aayog for finding out how much an individual car uh, uh, will reduce the emissions in a 8-year life cycle period. So crude oil consumption will be reduced by around 7,500 liters, while the CO2 emissions will be reduced by 5.27 tons for its life cycle of 8 years.
Quickly talking about the market scenario, about the EV charging stations as well as the EV units. So the number of EV units sold per year are expected to grow at a CAGR of 72% over the next 5 years, and at the same time, the charging stations are also expected to grow at a rate of 52%. Now, the drivers of this growth in charging stations is primarily the cooperation between the charging station operators as well as the EV makers, and rising awareness about the clean energy. But the challenges here are the rapidly changing technology in batteries being used. It can be a deterrent. And even after this significant growth, the ratio of EVs to chargers stands at 182, while the desired ratio, as mentioned in the case, was 40. So there's still a large shortfall of chargers. And speaking about the EV units, so the drivers here, which are fueling this growth, are primarily the consumer preference and a large investment by current auto manufacturers pushed by the government's end. However, at the current stage, the cost of EVs is a deterrent, as we already spoke in the first slide. And in this market, currently, the two-wheelers comprise of majority of the portion, while the passenger vehicle segment is only about 5 to 6%. Moving on to the competitive landscape in this industry, as we spoke, it is an intense competition. However, currently it is dominated by Tata Motors. Around 80% of the market share belongs to Tata Motors. And if we see established players like Hyundai and Mahindra, though they are in this market for around 4 to 5 years now, the market share that they have is still much lower than 5%. Talking about government policies, there are a lot of government policies like FAME and PMP pushing for adoption of EVs. The GST on EVs was reduced to 5%. And over and above these policies by central government, many states have also drafted their different policies providing incentives. And the recent trends and developments, the key pointers here would be, first of all, the infrastructure as well as the battery technology. So there are a lot of technological changes going on right now. So the current technology might become obsolete in the near future. The second key pointer is the current leaders, that is Tata Motors and Mahindra, are introducing a lot of new vehicles, and they have plans of launching them in the next around 3 to 4 years. And the next pointer would be companies such as Renault announcing their entry in the market.
The next aspect that we were looking was the infrastructure of the charging station in the country. And the first thing that we noticed was the density of vehicles per charging station. We found out that states like Jharkhand and UP have the highest density with 8174 and 7399 cars per charging stations respectively. Even the good performing states and UTs like Delhi and Goa were not performing very well, with 1125 cars per charging station in Delhi, followed by 1608 cars in Goa. We also saw that what are the different government policies that are accelerating the growth of charging stations in the country. There are a lot of government policies like FAME, PMP, National Mission on Transformative Mobility and Storage, as well as there are state government initiatives which are independent of central government. Just to give an example, in March 2021, the Delhi government directed all commercial and institutional buildings with a parking capacity of a specified number to set aside 5% of the parking space for EV charging. And in addition to that, they will be able to avail a subsidy of INR 6,000 per charging point. On the
10
right
minutes
side,
over.
on the right
5
side,
more
we can
minutes.
on the right side we can also see the funds allocated under the FAME India scheme, basis which we also find out that the state-wise sanctioned EV charging stations have been increasing, and the below graph as well as the map shows the state-wise sanctioned EV charging stations between the period of January 23 to August 23. On the left side, we can see the recent trends and developments in this particular industry of charging stations, where smart EV charging is coming up. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are being tested against NCM batteries. The blockchain technology is being used for the entire system of managing and storing data. Open charge point protocol are being also tested. Wireless charging is also seen as a technology that will be in the market in the next 10 to 15 years, followed by the seamless payment that has been integrated in these charging stations. We also saw the competitive landscape where we noticed that a number of players are in the market. However, they are still not able to cater to the entire market with the number of charging stations currently in the country. We also saw there are different types of EV chargers present in the market. The first table on the right side shows the different EV chargers mentioned in the case, and the below graph shows the installed EV charger units, in which we can see that the Type 2 AC holds the maximum share in this particular segment. Basis all these analysis, we can summarize that with all these incentives and all these push by the government, the charging infrastructure market still faces some challenges, which include charging time, limited charging infrastructure, battery technology, range anxiety, and one major factor that was mentioned in the case, that was space for setting up charging stations. We have already mentioned the growth rate of the charging stations, number of charging stations. Now we try to analyze that what is the shortfall in EV charging stations basis these factors and these numbers. And we found out that in next year alone, we will have a shortfall of around 35,000 charging stations, which will increase to 3.6 lakhs shortfall in EV charging stations for the number of EV units that are being sold, and which presents a very huge opportunity for the company to enter this particular market, both in terms of number as well as the synergy. And to answer the question of how will the challenge of space for setting up charging stations can be catered to, we found out that these 3-4 principles in mixture can be used to cater to this particular problem.
Moving on to the model that we tried to build. We have a target penetration rate of around 5% in the shortfall of EV stations market. And we have considered the cost of installing one charger to be 11 lakhs as per the case. Now these columns are year 1 to year 5. And what we have estimated is the capital investment required to install each charging station in that particular year, and the cash flow, that is the margin. The margin per charging station was 11 lakhs mentioned in the case. And we tried to see the cash flow as a percentage of our cumulative capital investments. And then also we tried to analyze what if we, instead of just installing one charger, what if we do install another separate chargers, and the penetration rate, what could be the impact on net cash flow as a percentage of capital investment. And what we can observe here is the most expensive charger, 26.65 lakhs. Only that charger was not able to recoup all the investment in the 5 years. It might take around 6 to 7 years to recoup the entire investment. But essentially, in summer, what we thought is instead of entering into the EV project, this EV charging station market provided a better opportunity in terms of the returns that it generates. Thank you.
Good presentation. I think first of all, your slides should not be so cluttered. I think that was a slide put off for me. I mean, I know that you all wanted to showcase the kind of information and the kind of things that you have gathered and you want to show, but I think that is something that you can think of. And I think you all spent a little bit more time on showcasing the problem statement. I think that is one more thing. But apart from you all wanting to go on to the EV charging infrastructure space, right? That's the space you all want to work on, right?
Yes.
Okay. So one thought that I have, and you can just share your thoughts on that, is that with respect to the changing scenario of infrastructure, the cost that you would be incurring, the kind of technology that you would be bringing would become obsolete over a period of time. So how would you handle that? That is my first question. And then the other thought was that if you're looking at a space in terms of EV or hybrids or ICs, considering the aspect of total life cost, over an 8-year period, which you also were mentioning, which you think would be a cost beneficial idea for the customers?
So Jayati, you can take the first one and I can take the second one.
Sure. So yeah, the challenge regarding the technology, rapidly evolving technology, is there. And so what we could gather from our secondary research was that although currently the market is dominated by the Type 2 AC chargers, the demand is right now expected to shift towards DC chargers, which are faster, and which reduce time required for the charging, as well as those with higher capacity. So a Type 2 AC charger which are being installed right now are, if I'm not mistaken, it is around 15 kilowatt per hour. But as the consumers will demand lesser and lesser time for their charging need, it is definitely going to be a challenge. And what we think as a prospective solution for this is maintaining the right, instead of completely going into one type of charger. First thing is that, for example, in tier 2 cities, it is still expected that the AC chargers would be preferred over DC chargers. So first of all, the trend needs to be analyzed, and as per that, a right set of portfolio of chargers needs to be maintained rather than committing to one specific type of charger, because as you said, it is completely going to be obsolete. And the second key point that I can think of is probably the latest trends should be embraced first right now. So for example, in tier 1 cities, it is already seen that DC chargers and the chargers providing full charging less than within 2 hours are being preferred. So probably the company could focus on having the right portfolio of chargers, is what I can think of.
And just to summarize, what we are saying is that we are not committing to one type of charger, and as we are projected in our solution, also we'll be installing chargers every year, catering to the shortfall of the market. And basis that we can, seeing the trend, we'll be improving our charger also. And in terms of cost, we have taken different scenarios, as we mentioned in this sensitivity analysis. Even in almost all the scenarios except one will be in the positive cash flow. So that is the answer to the first question. And the second question was that in terms of the total per year cost comparison between IC, hybrid, and EVs, we found that the hybrids are the most economical in terms. I can quickly share my screen as well, where we have done the analysis of both the scenarios in which there are concessions provided by the government, as well as where the concessions are not provided by the government. And in both the scenarios, we found, taking the cost of ICE as the base, the hybrid are 12 to 13% cheaper.
Okay, I got your answers. There's one more thing I wanted to understand. You all were mentioning about certain challenges, and you all spoke about charging infra, cost of EVs, government policies, consumer preferences, and competition, right? Which one of these would you, or rather, what is the order of challenges? Like, which is the biggest challenge, and then what is the next one and next one? I would like to understand your thought process from that.
So just a clarification. So when you say the order, so is it the order for making the decision to enter into the EV segment, or just generic challenges for the growth in the market?
Yeah. Challenges on the basis of which you have given the solution. So your solution would be on the basis of certain thought processes related to the challenges.
Right. So the first and foremost point is competition, because the other factors that we spoke about, consumer preference, charging infrastructure, government policies, although this might not be favorable to the company in the short run, for example, consumer preference and the charging infrastructure, it is going to catch up to the levels probably in 15-20 years. So if, for example, the new players entering into the market which do not have any background, they obviously have a very long-term plan and the risk appetite to wait till 15 to 20 years to gather that market share. But the first and foremost point is the current competition. When we analyze the competitive scenario, first of all, the market was dominated by Tata, and then we tried to check what is the portfolio of other companies and what is the return on capital that they are generating. So what we could see is players like Tata, it is difficult to segregate their business into specifically EV, but we could find some financial information specifically related to the EV segment. And currently, the net margins that they offer are extremely thin. And what we thought is a company which is a subsidiary of a renewable energy company, which essentially do not have any background as such in the auto manufacturing process, would be extremely difficult for them to get a strong foothold and get a market share in this segment. So competition was definitely our first, what we can say, the first factor based on which we decided to enter into the e-charging infrastructure.
Okay. Thanks, Jaydeep. I think I got what I wanted. Thanks.
Okay, guys, you have done a lot of study, okay. But just like what Mr. Neil said is that please understand that you could have presented in such a manner, you could have had bullet points and then explain the entire thing rather than plug in entire information on the screen. And actually you're reading the same thing. But I think the way you're presenting it is your English, your way of presentation can be different, but the point is the content is there. You don't have to tell me anything, it's already there, I can also read it. Right? But the point is the more the content I see, the more anybody will get switched off at some point of time. Because you have already made your decision in the very first slide by saying that we are not going to recommend EV, we are going for charging station. Your decision is done. Now from there, you're only giving the explanations with regard to the research you have done. So imagine as a board member sitting there listening to you, my thought process is only running on your decision. My thought process is not running on the study you have made, or my thought process would be on the study to see why you are saying charging stations. Why not the other aspects? Simple example is just now Mr. Ankit was explaining when based on a question raised by Neil that hybrid is supposed to be something which is being preferred right now. Am I right, Ankit? Ankit?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as an younger generation, a lot of people are not in the position to spend money for an EV, right? So hybrid, specifically parallel, may not require a charging station. A plug-in hybrid is different, a parallel may not be required. And if actually based on the study, if you really look at it, parallel is something which is being preferred in the market most of the places. Correct. That being the case, how would your charging station really help you? Over a period of time, let us presume the number of people going in for hybrid parallel is going to be the highest number when compared to the EV market itself. Yes, I'm not going to say that EV is not going to move up the ladder, but the it will be a very steady growth because today's government policies can change. They can withdraw a lot of things. They can introduce a lot of aspects, which may increase the cost of the EV tremendously. Right? That could impact the market. So people will always prefer a hybrid, which will still cost whatever is costing today, or maybe a lakh and a half more, but still the parallel is much more helpful for me. Correct? That point of time, is charging stations really going to be helpful for me or not? If you are giving me that kind of a presentation, it gives me a clarity of saying, yes, I'm able to get a very clear-cut picture of this. You understand where I'm talking, what I'm talking, guys, right? So this is what is expected from any board when, as a consultant, when you're talking about. So you are presenting and you are giving a solution, fantastic. But also you are trying to explain to me why am I giving this solution? Because for all you know, in the board, today you are having 2 of us. Let us presume there are 4 of us. 4 people might have 4 different ideas. One person might be actually owning an EV, so he must be thinking EV. The other person cannot own a hybrid. He would love to have a hybrid, right? But others could be on the fence. So this is a preset mind for anybody. It's a human nature. But it is for you to ensure that the mindset is kind of brought to a particular spot. I mean, this is just an input for you. So I'm sure that you'll be able to use it going forward.
Definitely.
Okay.
Sir.
Right.
Thank you for the feedback. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Wish you guys all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All the best.
You,
all the best, guys.
We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Benefits of SIP, STP, SWP. Win with SIP. This is Sid. He recently started working and wishes to invest his money in the stock markets. But his salary isn't much and he has only a small sum of money left to invest every month. While he was contemplating on what he could do, his elder sister Reena came to his rescue. An avid investor herself, Reena introduced him to the magic trio of SIP, STP, SWP.
Don't worry, you don't really need a large amount to start investing. You can invest as little as 500 rupees weekly, monthly or quarterly using SIP, that is Systematic Investment Plan in mutual funds. And before you wonder how it could help, let me tell you, a SIP has many advantages. 1. It lets you start small. And when you invest every month, you average your purchasing cost. So, you needn't worry about timing the market. For example, let's assume you invest 500 rupees every month. Given the market volatility, the cost of purchasing a unit of a mutual fund will change every month. Say, in the first month, you may get 40 units for 500 rupees. In the second month, you may also get 25 units for the same amount and perhaps more in the next month, say 45 units. This difference in price averages out over time, giving you the best possible price per unit over time. 2. You not only make your money work, you also make time work in your favor by starting to invest sooner than later. 3. You also benefit from the power of compounding by reinvesting the profits earned from your investments in mutual funds. Let me explain. Suppose you invest 500 rupees per month for a year. In 12 months, you will have invested 6,000 rupees. Let's assume your money grows at 8% during the year. So, your investments will be worth 6,480 rupees at the end of year 1. Now, if you leave the entire amount invested in the fund and continue with your SIP, by the end of the second year, your investment would be 12,480 rupees. That is 6,480 rupees plus 6,000 rupees. But given the 8% returns, you would have earned a profit of 998.4 rupees. And this amount will continue to compound as long as you stay invested.
This is quite enlightening. But sis, I have a doubt. When I get a bonus at the end of the year, how do I invest it? I don't want to take the risk of timing the market.
I'm glad you are catching on, Sid. You just need to be smart with your investments. You can park your bonus in a low-risk debt or liquid fund initially, and then set up a STP, that is a systematic transfer plan, which will transfer fixed amounts from this scheme to other debt and equity schemes regularly and give you all the advantages of a SIP. So you don't have to worry about timing the market. And while the SIPs happen, your money isn't lying idle in your bank. It is earning interest in debt or liquid fund. And just like a SIP, STP allows you to set the duration of your investment period. For example, if you get a 50,000 bonus, you can choose to invest 5,000 in a single scheme or 1,000 in 5 different schemes over the next 10 months. You can make this choice based on what goal you wish to achieve.
You have a solution for everything. I have one more question though. I can keep my investments going every month, but how can I withdraw, say after 10 years, without the hassle of timing the markets?
Well, Sid, this one is easy too. Let's assume you are investing for your retirement funds. Once you retire, you can turn your SIP into a SWP, that is a systematic withdrawal plan, and get a fixed income at regular intervals. So if you need 25,000 rupees per month to meet your expenses, you can set up the SWP to deposit 25,000 rupees into your bank account every month or 75,000 rupees every quarter. SWP gives you the flexibility to choose. A SWP not only aims to give you protection against market volatility, it keeps your money working for you. So, you see, when you SIP, STP or SWP, you aim to win on multiple levels, today as well as tomorrow.
An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
A very fine good evening to one and all. Myself, Brad B. Johnson, our team members Srikanth and GT George. So in a not so long future, when we look up to the electrical vehicles patterns, like from the bum of traditional engines fading away to a silent revolution of EV vehicles, from the smell of gasoline to the silent hum of EV vehicles. I welcome Srikanth to talk about EV vehicles and the hybrid vehicles currently. So I welcome Srikanth for that.
Oh, good morning, good evening. When going through the EV route, we have two options, either going fully EV or choosing a hybrid car. There are certainly benefits for both of them. However, the hybrid cars are quite expensive as well. So this making not so attractive options for the consumers. The dependence on gas is certainly a negative. So, and there are complications when it comes to repair as well. It's quite hard to repair, so we have to go to the customer service as the local shops won't repair them. So the consumers generally prefer either going fully EV or the traditional combustion engines. Now moving on to the environmental impact.
So coming to the real impact of the electric vehicles on the environment. The first one is the greenhouse gas emission. So we are comparing actually it with the ICE, that is internal combustion engine. The greenhouse gas emission rate for the electric vehicles are much more lower when compared to the ICEs. And also the carbon footprints produced by the EVs are lower when compared to the ICEs. Then coming to the battery recycling and disposal, due to the high advancement in technologies and systems, nowadays it has a lot improvement we can see in the battery recycling, and also a safe disposal method can be adopted, which will cause a less impact on the environment when compared with ICs. Then high efficiency, it indicates the operational efficiency of EV when comparing with the ICs. So they are taking high the energy supply and also producing a large output when comparing with the ICs. So coming to the projected progress of charging infrastructure, we can see a large improvement in the charging speed of the charging stations for the electric vehicles. This is due to the advancement in the technologies and other systems. We can see a large charging speed has increased tremendously. We can see there is a provision for high power charging stations, fast charging, and as well as ultra fast charging stations all over India. Also, we can there is also government initiatives. Government is more focusing on the expansion of charging stations all over the India. They are providing funds, incentives, and other subsidies. And also we can see a collaboration between the public and the private sector, which encourages the private sectors to expand the charging stations all over. And because of these reasons, there is a significant increase in the number of charging stations all over. So currently in India, there are almost 9,300 charging stations, and of which the highest number of charging stations, that is around 2,600, is at Maharashtra. This is due to their development and urbanization, which made them more focusing on the charging stations. And also the companies are focusing on the universal charging solutions. This indicates the smart charging solutions, which includes the optimizing the charging schedules for the EV owners, like allowing them to charge the EV vehicles at the off-peak times, where the electricity demand is lower. So it will become more cost efficiency, and also they will help them in a flexible charging and all. So these are the projected progress in the charging infrastructures.
Okay, like coming up to the consumer preference, why should someone choose EV rather than ICE? The main factors are zero emission, which make only a lower impact to the environment, rather than to the desire to reduce carbon footprints and to make more sustainability to the nature is the first thing, mainly called zero emission, lower impact to the environment. Second, lower operation cost, which gives a payback period within 5 to 6 years. And the government incentives, like for tax credits and other financial things are given by the government. So people will be like morely going up to buy EV vehicles because of most of the incentives given. And Coming up to the technological and innovation things, which is given in the EV is more advanced because EV is providing more advanced infotainment system, self-driving system, and more versatile and very unique designs. And the technological advancement which coming up in EV sector is more far better than the ICE, which looks good. The way which it designed is perfectly good. And next consumer preference can be get by the peer influence, the people who had been used EV from their experience, from word to mouth. Like that can be consumer preference. So these are the things like zero emission, low operating cost, government subsidies, technology advancement, and peer influence. These are the things which are the consumer preferences. So moving on to the next slide, Tata EV, we can see that when it comes to when it comes to the EV market, we can see there was a huge significant growth in Tata EV. Like when people having same kind of vehicles like when it comes to Tata Nexon or Tata Tiago, they're having both IC and EV. But most of the people are preferring to buy EV because there's a huge investment and there's a by forecasting up to the future, they can see a huge potential growth. When we can see and when we can compare both of like from the RAD and normal vehicles and the EV, we can see that people are going to invest more in EV. They are looking up to the future rather than afraid of the technology or advancement. They are moving forward to the EV, and an early entry will ensure there will be better competition. And if a new company, if a new brand is gonna come up with new cars, they're going to get better competitive advantage in EV market. So there will be a huge growth in EV market. That's from my point. Next slide, recommendation by Srikanth.
So when giving out a viable business plan, so the company should produce about 50,000 units in the first year, then adding up to 1,50,000 by year 5. And when talking about the investments, the company should at least invest 1,000 crore in the first year, as all the manufacturing products related to electric vehicles are quite expensive, and there will be a need for additional funding as the development is having quite a lot, like fast charging, etc. Then when it comes to investments in the charging stations, 5 lakh rupees is the basic amount for the regular charging stations, and the 20 lakh for the fast charging ones. And talking about the revenue, the charging stations make quite a big revenue. Actually, they make about 50 lakh from one station alone. That's about from a moderate charging station. From a big one, they could go up to 1 crore. Then the payback period is estimated to be around 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, as a conclusion, like we are not transiting, we are not from our business plan. It's not a transition from different transportation system. We are not merely selling EV vehicles. Rather, we are ushering an array of more environmental friendly vehicles. And from this recommendation, from this business plan, we are sure that we're gonna have more productivity and more stand in the EV market sector. Thank you.
Okay, where is your business plan? And I don't see a business plan at all.
Yeah, like
you're talking of producing 15,000 scooters and increasing the production to 1,15,000 in 5 years' time. But where is the business plan? Where have you spoken about hybrid? Why are you not talking about hybrid at all, either parallel or plug-in? You're talking about charging stations. If a hybrid plug-in also is there, there's a charging station required, right?
Yes, sir.
Why are you not talking about hybrid? Why are you focusing only on EV?
We've seen that hybrids are also quite expensive, so people don't really prefer hybrid that much.
Are hybrids more expensive than EVs?
Yeah, like
not more expensive, but they're significantly expensive than the regular combustion engine ones.
So people don't prefer hybrid.
Yeah, because people, it doesn't mean that people doesn't need hybrid or something. Like the emission is more in hybrid when it comes to the environmental thing. So we are looking forward to produce EV vehicles rather than hybrid. The emission is more in hybrid. So we are gonna look forward to the environment friendly vehicles. So we are looking forward to manufacturing.
Guys, I think you should have made a much more proper study about the market before you're making this statement to me. Anyway, Neil?
Yeah, hi team. Would it be possible for you all to unshare the presentation? Yeah, I think you know I hear what SKG told you all, and I would resonate on that. But in addition to that, I would recommend that, see, it's a case study. You all have to put forth certain facts and figures, a certain understanding level of what is happening in the current scenario and what are your projections for the future, and then come to a conclusion, right? What I heard was in the first 1.5 minute itself, you all ruled out hybrids on the basis of the running cost, right? It was only the part of running costs on the basis of which you all ruled out hybrid. So you need to look at what is the total life cost of a particular vehicle, given all the different assumptions that you would want to make in it, but over a life of a certain number of years. Having said that, I think, early on itself, you all had concluded that it is EVs that one should go with. And the entire presentation was non-numerically focused on the basis of why one should focus on EVs, right? So I would rather prefer a presentation where you're focusing on on what's the general scenario, current scenario in each of the segments, and logically deduce as to what is it that you would go for. So again, like, was there any reason that you all, sometimes, when we are close-minded on a particular thing, we start thinking only on that being the right option. So, was there anything of that sort of a thing, or was there a deep study done on each of these segments? Yeah, any one of you can take it. I mean, what was your source of information? What is it that how you all studied this? Because I understand that you all concluded EV at the beginning. I want to understand your thought process on the basis of which you all came to that conclusion early on.
Yeah, like we only had a short study on both EV and hybrid. Mainly we were straightly going forward to EV itself, because we three thought we more focus upon the environmental part only, rather than comparing hybrid. And the range mitigation which EV is providing right now is more high. When it's come to Hyundai, it is providing 864 miles per one charge itself. So we're okay, it's more environment friendly and it's providing a longer range, rather than we were looking up to the power. It's hybrid is in the front, but looking up to sustainability and environmental things, we go for the EV. That's why we on the first itself we concluded for the EV itself rather than comparing hybrid. We look forward to the environmental factors rather than the other factors.
Yeah, it looked as a emotionally driven conclusion, I think.
Yeah, guys, one other thing, please. One of the slides you mentioned about Tata. Okay, Tata EVs, you're talking about Tata EVs, and you're saying that, when we enter as a new entrant, then you would have a competition, etc., etc. Then finally, you recommend for scooters. And I was wondering what is going on here, right? Anyway, right, guys, all the best. Okay. Try my suggestion to you is for your own academic interest. Use this case study. Go back. Do a very detailed study in the secondary market, understand the three different scenarios, understand E2, E3, and E4, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and four-wheelers, and understand why you would like to go for only two-wheelers. And then you can talk about competition between two-wheelers and versus two-wheelers, rather than Tata, which is moving into four-wheelers and currently comparing that to two, and then asking us to manufacture two-wheelers, right? And then work on numbers also. Work on Excel sheet, work on your numbers, then you will understand how the whole thing is. This is only for your academic interest that will help you in the future as you get into your corporate world. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
All the best.
Thanks. We now have a special education AV from Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund.
Nivesh Fables presents Choose Your Advisor Wisely.
There were two rabbits. Willy was the wise one, and Fred was not so wise. They were walking through a field and came upon two carrots. Fred excitedly rushed and picked up a carrot. but it was smaller than it looked. He was confused, so Willie said, "Judging a carrot by its leaves is not the right way." After walking for some time, they came across another set of carrots. This time, Willie chose the carrot first. Fred thought, "How come the carrot with smaller leaves is small?" Willie replied, "I do not judge a carrot by its leaves." For the third time, they found 2 carrots again. Willie pulled out 1 carrot and offered it to his friend. Fred was still confused and said, "I don't know how you do it, but I guess you're just smarter than me." "Fred, I may have the wisdom, but I share it with others and help them benefit from it too. You're my friend, you trust me, and I want you to have this carrot." In real life, while making investment decisions, don't we all look for an advisor like Willie, who wouldn't just look at the leaves superfluously, but analyze, inspect, understand the investments thoroughly, and suggest the right one for us? Someone who we can trust our hard-earned money with. As they say, if you look for a financial advisor, look for someone with the heart of a teacher and the soul of a friend. Have you found yours? An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Nikita. I'm Shakti Abhirami. First of all, we would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity. And let us start this presentation. Business plan for green mobility India entering the electric vehicle segment. So, based on the analysis, we are going for a hybrid focus strategy. That is, the green mobility should enter the EV segment with a hybrid focus strategy. And we are against the pure EV sectors at this stage due to several factors like infrastructure facility is limited right now, and uncertain government support and vehicle costs. So due to these factors, we are against this full EV sector now. So we are suggesting the green mobility to focus on hybrid focus strategy, and this will minimize the risk.
Here comes the go or no go dynamics, positives. As a huge growth potential is concerned, 2 days before we received that Tata Motors is going with EV in Gurgaon. It states that there is a huge competition, and also there is a huge market growth potential, so that we are recommending the Green Mobility Private Limited to go with hybrid and EV. And as far as government support is concerned, government is giving FAME, which is future adaptation and manufacturing of electric and hybrid vehicles in India. It says about rupees 10,000 crores for the development of EV vehicles, and renewable energy parent company. If we are using EV means full EV means we should in need of more electricity consumption, so that it will create 2 to 3% of electricity demand. But the hybrid is concerned with both electricity and hybrid, so electricity and petrol, so that it is a nice advantage for them, and also first mover advantage. The green mobility is concerned with, we derived with an investment of 13 lakh 50,000 per car. So that the cost is compared to be very cost efficient than the other leading EV manufacturers. So this would be a first mover advantage. And here comes the negatives. Negatives, first one is intense competition. So we know there are top players, a lot of players in the market right now. So it is it poses a threat for the new players to enter into the market and establish a position out there. So intense competition is one of the negative factors. Next one is infrastructure constraints. So one of the main factor or major factor that we can see is that there is only limited charging facilities, and it is one of the concern also the customers have about while purchasing the EV or hybrid cars right now.
Next one is high initial investment. So recently, Toyota has established a plant in Karnataka, and they have invested amount of 3,300 crores to establish a manufacturing plant for annual capacity of 1 lakh cars per unit. So we can see a huge amount is required to start a manufacturing plant or make investment in these areas, and also we have to invest in create infrastructure for the charging facilities also. So that is which require a lot of investment. So huge initial investment is also an important factor. So like the new players cannot get huge investment sometimes, and we also require certain help from the support from the government also. Then last one is certain uncertain consumer preferences. So the consumer preferences also dynamic, keep on changing, and we cannot predict or we cannot produce more than a limited amount of cars. Like then there will be a problem of inventory also. So the consumers change and consumer tastes and preferences are changing, and even they are uncertain about right now about the full EV vehicles also. So that's why we are going for hybrid. So gradually we can see a progress, I guess.
Then the reasons for hybrid. First one will be environmental impact. As far as EV is concerned, it takes charging full-time charging for about 12 hours, which is very high. People cannot have that much patience to wait for the full charge. During the emergency situations also, they can't depend on this type of vehicles. And also internal combustion engines, which has a limited efficiency, as it is creating some noises as well as vibration in the vehicles. So that we are preferring hybrid vehicles instead of full EVs and internal combustion engines.
The next factor is consumer preferences. So based on the secondary sources, we have taken this. So the survey indicates that the customers are interested in purchasing EV and the hybrid cars, but they are uncertain about certain things like for charging facilities available and the cost of those things. And for its cost efficiency is also another factor. That is mostly the full EV cars are costlier than the hybrid. So the consumers who are cost conscious are not able to purchase this full EV. So we are suggesting go for hybrid. And then another factor is hybrid can be a stepping stone, or like it can be a as it is in the initial stages, hybrid will be a good option to go for. So that is the consumer preferences.
And the market scenario projection. As far as with the comparison between EV and hybrids, the consumer preference is more on hybrid, so that the market will led by the hybrids for about 3 to 5 years. And also, if need, the company can go for full EV if they with the full-fledged research and development. And then understanding of the consumer interest, they can go with full EV after 5 years.
The next factor is charging infrastructure progress. So we are told that one of the main concern for the customers and one of the limiting factors is the limited charging facilities available. So we should see a progress in the future. So first one is projected progress. So government and private sectors are taking initiatives to set up charging facilities all over India. And then another technologies we should look into is battery swapping and the speed of charging the battery, and the number of hours it will last. So that is some of the technologies we should improve on. And then next one is impact on EV penetration. So gradually with the progress on the development in these things, there will be an increase in sales also. So then another thing is strategic planning of the charging stations. So it should be placed in mainly in those public areas or crucial. It will be crucial for the the users to charge a car, charge a car in certain areas. So there should be proper research on this to establish the charging stations in certain areas. So research and development is required in these. to come up with innovative solutions as well as on the locations of the charging stations.
And we are coming to the business plan. For the first 2 years, we have recommended to have a full-fledged focus on their production and sales as demand is high. So that they can go with full-fledged production and sales, and also we are the ones with low cost efficiency, so that our brand will be green mobility will be recognized, and also we can get the customer trust. And then collaborating with the charging infrastructure providers instead of going with heavy investment in charging stations. The company can collaborate with the private charging infrastructure provider so that they can save the cost, and they can make the cost for any other promotional activities, and also for they can invest in the CSR activities, and also for the sustainability measures. And the next year plan.
Next, the 3 to 5 year plans, we should the green mobility should invest a lot on research and development, so that after 5 years they can plan for coming up with full AV cars. Then next one is expanding the network of charging network. That is, we have all as we have said, to increase the number of charging stations in India, and then we have to also come up with innovative charging solutions. Then with the revenue and the profit we are making in the initial years, we could increase the manufacturing capacity, and also we could come up with a new manufacturing plant in different locations. So that is a 5-year plan. Then we can look into the financial projections.
Coming on to the financial projections, we have decided to have a mild hybrid type of vehicles that it gives more fuel efficiency, and the hybrid focused strategy will definitely reduce the risk and will lead the market, and also it's a great potential. And here comes the brief financial projections.
So this is the 5-year business plan. So vehicle type we have gone for the hybrid, and we have mentioned country. It is the number of cars that the whole country will be producing, and our production is 18,000 cars we are producing per year. And the investment in plan we have assumed that 850 crores. Then the charging facilities, the number of charging facilities we are going to come up with is 6,450. So 8 lakh is the number of charging facilities all the whole country should do, and we are going with 6,450. And the total investment would be 1,408 crores. Then the investment promotions, as we are on the initial stages, tells us that it will be 3 times the original cost. So we are going for 9,000 crores on promotions. And expected market share, as we are a new player in India, it is 2% in the initial year, and it goes up to 2.82% in the coming years. And the total revenue will be 2,987.93 crores, and the total expenses 1,438.
Then the payback period from the initial stage itself, the market is very favorable, and they can get back their expenses by the first year itself. And
10
we
minutes
are
over.
concluding that
5 more.
Yes,
10 minutes is over. 5 more minutes is there.
Okay, yes, sir. Then we are concluding that the green mobility can go with the hybrid focus strategy, and it will give a long-term success. And also, it's a renewable energy advantage, and we can get partnership from the charging infrastructure, and having a detailed research and development development on customer interest. They can go for further pure EV concept after 5 years, and we have framed the financial projections based on the details given in the case study. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Actually, it's a very good presentation. I mean, very simple, very crisp, very neat, and the kind of the explanations you gave was very nice. When
Thank you so much, sir.
When he came to your Excel sheet, you went boof. At the end of the day, fifth year, we are going to talk about 2.5%. Why would I invest so much to get only 2.5% of the market share? No, you don't have to share. You don't have to share it. You don't have to share it. You have mentioned 2.58%, right? At the end of the fifth year, market share.
Yes, sir.
At 2.558, you will not even get anything. Your plan is right. Your absolute plan is right. You start with hybrid, then move on to EV, right?
Yes, sir.
And but in your projections, which you have given numbers, you have quoted a number of on the cars. We have quoted a number on production, plant machinery, but you have not said when do you start EV and what is the amount you are going to pump in for EV. You understand? Whether if you are going to only do it after 5 years, no problem. You are not shown it, it is okay. Charging station, somewhere in your presentation you had mentioned over a period of time to do a charging station. But your charging station was very first year itself.
Yes, sir.
Right? So somewhere the numbers are not adding up. Your numbers are not adding up. Maybe you'll have to rework on the numbers.
Okay.
So if you have really read the case, you really look at it, unless you capture 20% of your market share, you are really not profitable in a thing. So the case study almost gives that indication of 20%. Right? But if you really want to put your numbers properly, you should have at least reached 20% by the end of fourth year.
Yes, sir.
Right? It's a steady growth. Your growth has been only on point something. From 2% to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. That is of no use to any large organization which is going to spend money on this, right? But your concept of wanting to go with hybrid is an amazing thing. I was enjoying your presentation till the last Excel sheet came.
Thank you so much.
It is a big drop. I think, you have planned beautifully. Your explanation was fantastic. It is amazing. But the solution part of it, where solution also was good, but the numbers became the final solution for me. That is where the critical is. That it's the red drop.
We will look into this.
We will look at the testing. Anyway, okay, no problem. But you have done a very good study, and then you have been very clear and crisp on why you are going to hybrid.
Yes.
Right? That is the most important thing.
Thank you
Good.
so much.
Neil?
Yeah, sure. I think, one thing I liked in your presentation was the part where you spoke about minimizing risk,
Yes,
in the beginning stage. And that gave me a clarity in terms of how you all are thinking. But, the other part of it, when you look at minimizing risk, you become very conservative. And I was actually interested in that Excel sheet only when you all use the word minimizing risk, and I wanted to see that while you're minimizing risk, what is the projection that you all would have? And that reflected actually in terms of your investment economics.
Yes.
Because if you're looking at a lower market share, then you might not really although the thought process is correct, you would still not. So if you look at, you will have to look at something in terms of minimizing risk, but at the same time, the profitability in terms of market share and other aspects of the investment economics, that comes into play in terms of once you have identified what kind of model you want to go in for, and you have a clear understanding in terms of consumer preferences.
Yes.
You mentioned some part of consumer preferences and the long-term requirement of a particular customer profile. It would have been nice if you all would have probably looked at it from the number of units that you would want to sell, and then work out the economics in terms of how it would become a viable solution. But overall, I think a good presentation. The way you all thought about it, it's really wonderful. Thanks a lot, team.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Wish you guys all the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
So hi everyone. I think today we had 4 teams, from Kochi Center who participated in the boardroom challenge, and they came with some great thought process and analysis. I think it made us also think, and each team deserves a round of applause, and a special applause, of course, to the Businessline team who brought in this case study for them. And while each team, performed extraordinarily well, it gives me a great joy to share today's winner. Today's winner was Team D, Janssen School of Business. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. This is Businessline Boardroom Challenge 2023.